SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stongo, Gary Fife, Joe Jifkidos. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio here on KOKL here in beautiful, cloudy Okmulgee here today. Setting in as our engineer and colleague is the wonderful Morgan Taylor.
It's Jay, everybody. A rainy Wednesday for kind of sad news across Oklahoma, in my opinion. But
well, yeah, I'm sure that there are obviously tons of other Oklahomans who feel the other way. But I tell you what, folks, we're not going to get into the elections. We'll let you all deal with that and kind of either gloat and be happy or sob and cry. Either way, enough is enough. Those decisions have been made, and I hope you all at least got out and voted. Boy, this was a tough one though this year. I mean, it was kind of
that's what's important.
Almost mean and nasty almost. Well, anyway, let's get on with our program. We're going to look at the subject of law enforcement. Our Lighthorse police force here is joining us today, and in studio at the moment is Chief Richard Phillips and Captain Jerry Smith with Special Ops. We're going to take several divisions of Lighthorse into our discussions today, so we'll be changing out some personnel. But first of all, Chief Phillips, for those folks who aren't familiar with your department, why don't you give us kind of a capsule of who you are, and how many people, and your responsibilities, your mission, in other words.
Again, my name is Chief Richard Phillips, Lighthorse Police Department, and we cover 11 counties. We cover the from McIntosh, northern part of Pittsburgh, all the way up to Admiral in Tulsa, and as far east as Wagner County, and as far west as the Cromwell area, far eastern corner of Seminole County, and all points in between. Everything in that area is our jurisdiction. I've been in law enforcement for 25 years and chief of Lighthorse for the last 2.
And now the challenge that you face is pretty amazing. That's a big chunk of territory to have to cover.
Yes, sir.
And do you have the adequate personnel and vehicles and resources to take it on?
Now, we could always use more people, but we've been making do with what we have. We've hired on several. I have a total of 63 officers that are out in the field that actually have commission, or that are commissioned through me. We have cross deputizations with several agencies in between, and they also work well with us in getting our citizens taken care of.
Well, that's kind of a tricky part, I guess, occasionally when the jurisdictional questions come up, but we won't really pursue that here today. We'll kind of put the chief on the spot for that one. Let me speak with Captain Smith here for a second. Now, your specialty is special operations, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, what does that cover?
So, special operations at Mvskoke Creek Nation Lighthorse Police. We're responsible for the SWAT team, our dive team, search and rescue, swift water, and drones.
Now, when you say SWAT team, of course, TV has portrayed those teams as coming in with all these specialized weapons and sniper rifles and, of course, lots of armor and whatever else, presumed non-lethal weaponry. Does your department cover all of that? I mean, is it all there in hand?
Yes, sir. So we have pretty well everything. We have 20 members on the SWAT/TAC team. Depends on what you want to call it that day. And with those 20 members, we're we're hoping to add 5 or 6 more. We're going to do another testing day in January, and those 20 members is only within our department there at Lighthorse. We've also got a big training coming up in a couple weeks. November 28th is the start day, and there'll be 15 or 16 of the 20 guys will be going through a basic SWAT training. We're putting everybody back through that again, even if you've already obtained that training before. And with all the weapons and the armor and everything, we are in the process of trying to receive a grant for an armored vehicle. But I do know the Chickasaws and the Cherokee Nation has reached out and advised that they'll respond to help us out if we need armored vehicle, for certain situations.
I've always been curious, I guess, what's the, forgive the pun, but what's the trigger then for your people to be called out on an incident? I mean, obviously somebody in a house with a weapon, I mean, several people out raising heck. What is it that prompts you all to come on scene?
So usually it's the most violent crimes is what your TAC team will be called out for. Barricade situations, something that patrol may not have the resources or the equipment to handle, a situation. Then they will call us out, and we'll respond and see what we can do. With technology nowadays, there's so much stuff out there, technology-wise, that you can use, and it almost takes the manpower out of it. But we know technology, will fail sometimes, so you have to have the manpower ready.
Mm-hmm. Does that include drones by any chance?
Yes, sir. So drones is a big thing right now. A lot of agencies across the United States is sending in drones to do their initial sweep of a residence or a building. And with that going on, it's safer. I'd rather replace a drone because I can't replace, an officer.
Right. We've seen pictures of like robots on like treads and cameras and actually with weaponry. Does your department have any of that?
So we just received a grant this past year. We will have a robot that will be ours, and we will be sending, I think, 4 or 5 officers to state of Alabama, and they will be going through a extensive, intense training. And that robot will be able to go in for bomb situations or to go in and, in the place of a drone to see where the suspect might be hiding at.
Chief, how do you say drone in Mvskoke?
I had a question. So as far as like some of your equipment goes, is it kind of like standard throughout like whatever level of agency you're at, or are you able to purchase more than the state, or just have more resources, or how does that work?
We actually work, I guess, in conjunction with the tools that we utilize, as well as the states are, I guess, for lack of a better term, parallel. We use the same tools that they use. I mean, we don't have anything better than theirs. They don't have anything better than ours. We're the same. We utilize the same tools.
Pretty standard across.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's the optimum answer is yes.
Okay, great.
And on the swift water and the dive side, we work really well with emergency management and the state emergency management. We help each other out all the time on, searches for missing kids or swift water events or, a dive event.
I'm thinking of incidents there, like on the Arkansas River and then a couple of lakes where there were some tragic losses there. Were you guys called out for those?
Yes, so our most recently situation we had to deal with was the young boy in Okemah that had went missing from his residence. I can't express how much state emergency management helped out, how much other agencies, other tribal agencies responded to help us out. And it was we all came together, putting all differences to the side or opinions or political stuff to the side, and we got in there, worked together, and did what we could trying to find the young man. It wasn't the outcome we wanted, but we're trained to deal with that. We know we're going to come across outcomes like that, and hopefully it's better outcomes than sometimes.
Do you think that was a situation that kind of brought you guys together on an emotional level or a deeper level?
Yes, I believe so. I know we work with other agencies all the time, but I know that brought a lot of the guys together that day, and we divided up in teams to go out and search different grid areas, and afterwards we did an after action report, and myself and emergency management, Bobby Howard, put that on, and we had several agencies show up to that after action, and that after action meeting is basically what can we do better to do next time, and a lot of the agencies was very pleased with how things were ran that day, and as a command and all. So I think it brought a lot of the agencies closer together, and it also it showed not just tribal agencies but stateside agencies, hey, we have this equipment, hey, we have this manpower to help out. And we have a deal with Chickasaws and Cherokees and the Choctaws where, hey, you got something major going, just call, we'll send the resources.
Another question kind of in this line, we were all aware of the tragedy involving the 4 men who were actually found in the river. Did you have a part of that investigation or the search? Were you called on for that one?
I did not. Special operations did not assist on that situation. I do know some of the other agencies helped with that situation because they had a little more equipment than what we had for on the dive side.
Sure.
We did offer our dive team to assist in any way, and we did let our investigations department know because they were asked to assist. So a couple of our investigators were out there on scene as well. One of our investigators was saying in case they needed a dive or one of our boats or whatever, then I told them to get in contact with Captain Smith, and told him whatever we could do to help.
There was one Native American, correct, out of the 4?
That was our understanding, yes, ma'am.
And so was that you guys' involvement, or you just offered?
We were asked at the tail end, and then after we were asked, then like I said, we offered whatever tools we had to try to achieve a common goal.
Now, that I guess sort of points to a bigger question of cooperation and cross jurisdictions. I guess I'm curious as to find out what that situation's like now, and have things really changed since the McGirt decision. I know politics really isn't your end of it, but you are the boots on the ground there. I mean, does it affect what you do?
Again, that would be Captain Morris. He's the one that does our cross deputizations and things of that nature. But as far as those that work that are cross commissioned with us, they work well with us. They do things as the way they're supposed to. The reports are handled. They send them to our Attorney General's office, and we're open to discussion with those that aren't cross. I mean, our door's always open. We're always willing to talk.
The heads of several agencies came together in a meeting in Tulsa, was it last year, where you discussed what was going on there, answered questions in the press about how this was going to work. Do you feel confident or comfortable now that you've got a working situation where there aren't any nasty surprises legally?
Well, there's always surprises, but however, just we work together to get past them. If we, like Captain Smith said, irregardless if you're cross-commissioned with us or not, we come together as one to achieve that common goal to help everybody.
It's a little bit of a bigger picture, you know, like it's about the citizens and, you know, we all live together. And so I think
Right.
it's like sometimes we have to look past the problems, you
Yes,
know.
ma'am.
So like when a situation happens like that did with the men, is typically something you guys would like to see is both responding agencies, like are both agencies responding, or you guys preferably, since it's on our like capital.
Well, we understand all that. You know, it's all a reservation. However, we do respect jurisdictional boundaries. You know, we don't want to step in somebody else's puddle, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? But I mean, we're here to help, and if they ask, you know, we'll come all in.
Okay. Is there any kind of limitations you guys have when it comes to stuff like that you don't have agreements with certain agencies?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we work past them because, again, it is a reservation. So, I mean, we work past them. We work through our Attorney General's office, their city attorneys, whoever it may be, whatever the case may be, again, to serve the citizen is
Right.
our ultimate goal at the end of this.
All right.
Let me toss a hypothetical question. If it calls on you to speculate, you know, please do. But say there's a situation out here on Highway 75, busy thoroughfare, and you've got some jackass in a pickup that just roars through there. I mean, I've had it happen. I'm sure we all have. Perhaps one of your officers would pull them over. So would you follow through with a prosecution, or would you kind of hand it over to the highway patrol?
Well, there again, if it's a non-native, our first and foremost concern is public safety. You know, regardless who they are, if non-native or native. Non-native, then we'll reach out to the proper authorities wherever jurisdiction we're in. If they're a non-native, and tell them what we have, and then they can address whatever they want to do, follow whatever their protocols are. We did our due diligence, and I guess getting the individual who was roaring down the road stopped. And again, it's a matter of public safety.
So procedurally, you would stop them if necessary.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter who they are.
No, it's a matter of public safety.
I
We
think
don't want-
that's something like that people don't understand,
Right.
you know, and that goes both ways, right?
Right.
Like,
Because
so
we all have families on the same roadway. You know,
yes.
mother, brother, aunt, whoever.
Kids. Yeah.
Children.
Yep.
Driving down that same road, it's a matter of public safety, and we will stop and make contact with the
I know
public.
that in the past there were situations where somebody would say, well, you can't stop me, you know, I'm not Indian, you don't have any authority over me. So that leaves you in a situation, well, you broke the law, the highway patrol guys do have jurisdiction, we're going to give you to them. Now, that's kind of how it works.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like I said, it's just public safety.
Yeah.
We're all police officers first and foremost. It doesn't matter what size, shape, or color of uniform. We're all out to make sure everybody's safe.
Yes.
So as such, we'll make sure that we reach out to the proper authorities and make sure everything is handled correctly.
just have a minute here, Gary.
Yeah, the situation then, biggest question, I guess, was that cooperation and how you guys fit together. So that same situation would extend to a problem here inside the city limits of Okmulgee also. I mean, you know, same jackass and the pickup is roaring around the council house, and you pull them over. Would you hand them then to Okmulgee?
Yes, sir. Like I said, again, it's just public safety. We will have our dispatch contact their dispatcher and say, hey, this is what we have. And then once their officer arrives on scene, we'll advise that officer what we have and then give all the proper information over to them. And then we'll just kind of bow out gracefully, if you will.
Yeah, you broke the law, you're going to have to pay the price.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Badges all work the same.
That's it. Yes, sir.
We're going to take a short pause here, and we're going to rotate some of the crew in, and we'll shift off to a different subject. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio, here on KOKO, The Brew.
The Brute.
Okay, come on.
All right, and we're back, and we have a couple more people with Lighthorse Police Department with us today, and would you guys like to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure. Dennis Northcross. I'm the Deputy Chief over Patrol for the Mvskoke Nation.
And we have Captain Morris here. I've worked with Captain Morris a couple times. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Captain Morris. I'm captain of patrol. I'm on a special assignment right now.
A special assignment, that include radio interviews?
It does. I'm on special assignment. They've got me doing some of the hiring, and then I'm filling in with the K-9 unit as well.
Let me ask you something quickly about hiring. I meant to ask the chief. There are a number of officers here. What, do you have over 60? Is it something like that?
We have right at 60, yes.
Okay, and how many of those are Mvskoke citizens? Got them.
Yeah.
Not sure. I couldn't give you a number on it.
Okay,
I
well,
would
that's
estimate like 50%.
Are most of them tribal?
Yes, yes.
okay. Well, perhaps in the future we'll come back to that question and get a number. It's I think that's important to me because of obviously you're dealing with a tribal society here, a community made up of Mvskoke people and other tribes too.
Definitely when we do interviews and look at applications, we definitely put that on the top of our list.
Mm-hmm.
For citizens first, members of other tribes secondary, certified and experienced folks.
Well, while we're on that subject, what do you look for when an applicant comes in? What sort of a profile or characteristics are necessary for them to be considered?
So the minimum qualifications usually must be 21 years of age, must not have any felony convictions like that. We prefer 15 hours working toward a degree. And we start with that, and that's the very minimum. Outside of that, we look for any experience. We look for certifications, either through the state or the BIA. We look for education, and we look for persons of good character.
I saw a couple openings as a Lighthorse police, so if you're interested, that's on there, and you should definitely listen to Deputy Chief Northcross. How long have you been in law enforcement?
I've been in the profession almost 25 years. I've been working with the Mvskoke Nation for over 16 years.
Oh, wow. So I'm sure there's been a big change that you've got to see over that time. Can you kind of talk about over the last few years, what kind of change that you've experienced?
Sure. The biggest change would be the McGirt decision, or the ruling on McGirt. Prior to that, we had probably 15 to 20 officers. We did a lot of probably community policing was the norm for us then. A lot of interaction with communities. We had time to visit and do business checks and things like that. Since the McGirt, we've added like 40 officers on top of what we had, and we're consistently busy with responding to calls and answering things like that. So we're just almost overwhelmed. We're busy from start to finish when we start our shift.
Captain Morris, let's pull you into this discussion here. Now, first of all, let's kind of get an idea of your responsibilities and your mission.
So I'm captain of patrol. We've expanded. Our goal is to expand into 4 districts since McGirt. My district is, of course, not complete yet with manpower. We're working on that, filling that up. So right now I'm on special assignment with the hiring, and then I'm filling in with the K-9s. Even the cross commissions, I've been helping with some of the cross commission stuff.
Now, when we say cross commission, that's to make sure that 2 different police departments can work together.
Agency to agency, yes. Yeah.
I knew that was a huge question when this thing first came up, but on the boots on the ground level, have you guys found ways to make things work?
Yes, for the most part, we work well with all the agencies within the reservation.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking of perhaps situations like in the casino, River Spirit, something weird going on in the parking lot. And so you work with TPD there to make things happen.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, in the same situation we asked about Highway 75, someone's committing a crime there that isn't necessarily a crime against the tribe, then would you sort of hand them over to the Tulsa folks there?
Yes, depending on what county you're in. I mean, they're within the reservation. We have a legal right to take action and make traffic stops wherever. If it's a county that we're not cross-commissioned in and it's a non-native, say, then we would turn them over to the proper authorities or contact that county.
So do you typically try to contact city or county first?
Not typically. If we've got the agreement in place, if we have the agreement in place, then we will act as an agent for that agency and go ahead and transport to jail and make the charges and submit them to the DA's office or whatever needs to be done.
So would you have to go into court and
Yes.
finish up that case?
Yes.
Now, are all of those agreements pretty much the same, kind of standardized?
Yes, yeah, they're all the same agreements.
And what do they look to do in, I guess, bullet points? You don't need to go into a lot of detail, but basically what are they designed to do then?
There's certain standards on there. There's certain qualifications that we require. Of course, we make sure that when they're signing an agreement and we're giving them cross commissions, they can't have any felonies and stuff like that, because we would be giving them a cross commission card through the tribe. So they got to be in good standing with their agency and stuff like that.
Does it kind of outline like procedures and how you guys are going to both agree to handle things in certain tribal status and things like that?
Yes.
And can you kind of describe a typical procedure as far as a traffic stop would go?
So if I were in the Tulsa city limits and I conducted a traffic stop and it was determined that the individual was non-native, with the cross-dep agreement that we have in place, I would act as an agent for the Tulsa Police Department. I would issue a summons or contact Tulsa Police Department to come and issue a summons if it required that. If it was something that required more than that, like going to jail, then I would just transport them to jail. I would issue charges and present the court with those charges. And
Okay.
prosecute
So how
that.
does jailing go? Because I know we don't really, do we have a jail as far as Mvskoke Nation goes?
We don't have one of our own. We have, I think, 5 different contracts.
Yes, 5.
Um,
Okfuskee, we have a contract with Okfuskee County, Mvskoke County, Creek County, David L. Moss, and then we have a agreement with Pawnee County. They're helping us out.
So you would transport your perpetrators to those facilities?
Usually, yes, the nearest facility that we have contract with.
Are you guys pretty full on your capacity on our side?
Usually we have anywhere, this just I get a list weekly. I can tell you, like David L. Moss, for instance, generally we're sitting with 120 to 130 inmates in there each week. That's
Wow.
pretty common.
Wow.
What percentage is that for them? Like, do they only give you a certain amount of holding cells or individual spots?
So we pay a price for each individual one. I don't necessarily believe that David L. has a bed space. Some of them do. I know what you're talking about, but Pawnee County, they reserved us 60 beds, so they can hold up to 60 of our inmates. The David L., I don't believe there's a number on that one.
Okay, all right.
It seemed like they could use the men's room in our building.
Oh, Lord.
Incarcerate them. No, that would be a cruel and unusual punishment.
They can definitely use our women's room because it never works. So.
Okay, well, has the situation between the state and the tribe has, I have to say, deteriorated. I mean, the governor's not been a real fan or real supportive. And but anybody wants to get mad after hearing that, you can get mad at me, but not these guys. Are you at a situation now where you all are comfortable? I mean, your boots on the ground guys know what you got to do, and perhaps the hurdles you may have to jump to make things work.
We are pretty much there. I know the boots on the ground guys from shift to shift work really well with the boots on the ground guys from every other agency that we work with. So there's no issue there. They get along well. They do a good job.
I did have a question. I can't remember the officer's name that was speaking with me, but he said that he is an advocate for like the LGBTQ community. So I was kind of wondering what kind of advocacy positions you guys have on the force.
So I would say as far as advocacy, we advocate for victims.
All victims? Yeah.
Yes, we try to stay out of the political realm.
Mm-hmm.
We do have representatives of minority groups.
Mm-hmm.
That would be about it, I guess.
Would that, I guess, include someone for the Hispanic community or
Yes.
perhaps the black community?
Yes.
That's good. Well, my kinfolk,
LGBTQ
anyway.
community.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It was at the Halloween thing or something, and we were just chatting, off key or off record conversation, and I didn't know that you guys had that, and I just thought that was a really good, thing to offer somebody, because sometimes knowing that you have somebody in that position makes you feel more comfortable to share or be able to talk and not just sit back and like let something happen to you or feel like you're not heard, so
There are a lot of advantages for diversity in
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm glad that we are open to that and looking at that as, something that we can bridge that gap, I guess,
Do you have officers on staff now who could fill those roles if they need to?
Yes.
So someone who is, I guess, let's say, fluent in Spanish, perhaps?
Yes, we do.
Good. I wish I wasn't fluent in Mvskoke. So.
Me too.
Speaking of which, how do you make those cultural connections? If you've got an elder or someone who is not that eloquent, perhaps, in English, but is good in Spanish, is that the chief's job?
I'm saying at this time we are fortunate to have a language speaking chief, and he does a lot of that. We have former employees that are still employed with the tribe but no longer with the department that are language speakers that we contact on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
So
if somebody says Mvskoke, you committed a crime of being too drunk. One of the trends in law enforcement around the nation now has been the inclusion of more body cameras. How is your force here doing that? Have you got each officer now is equipped with them, and what are the rules regarding those things?
the majority of the officers do have body cams.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the rules we have is they don't have access to manipulate any video that they capture.
Mm-hmm.
They're required to utilize them on all contacts with civilians or the public. They're maintained on occasion as evidence, depending on what the situation is.
They have to document each shift at the end of each shift, and they download into a database. So
Can they turn them on or off during their work hours? I mean, there was some criticism of officers in other places doing that.
They can. They do have that capability to turn them on or off.
Mhm.
That's just something that has to be consistently monitored and regulated. Of course, it's going to bring up questions
Oh, yeah.
if you've got some video and then in the middle of an encounter and it goes off.
Hmm.
So, that's...
But I'm sure, what if they don't have a stop for a couple hours and there's just a couple hours of them just driving on video? Like, you don't want to watch that. So I'm sure it needs to go off at some time,
Yeah, like going through the Sonic or something.
Yeah. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see you eat your chili dog.
No, I might. I mean,
It might be funny.
yeah, as the future progresses, I'm going to presume that you'll be recruiting. You'll be looking for more officers, and hopefully with a Mvskoke preference. What does that future look like? Is there a lot more interest these days from our young people about becoming involved?
We haven't seen the interest in law enforcement increase all that much. It seems to me that within the agencies that are within the boundaries of the nation, we do a lot of swapping employees, but for brand new young people that haven't been in the job field, there's really not that much interest.
What about students from like CMN? Because I know they have like, which is the College of Mvskoke Nation. I know they have like, you know, their own law enforcement type of degree. Do you guys take students from there, or?
We do take students from there that are interested. We go and encourage those students to apply.
And then you have the Explorers program, right? Isn't that coming up or something, or is it currently going on? Or?
It's currently going on. It has been going on for quite a few years. We have a few officers that have been through that program. We have one officer in particular. His name is Nathan Pickering. He's a sergeant. I met Nathan when he started the Explorers program when I started about 16 years ago.
Wow.
So Nathan rode around with me quite a bit while he was in that program, and has since that time is hired on with us and advanced to the position of a sergeant.
So those Explorers, they get to ride around with you guys?
Yes.
I'm sure on certain stuff,
Yes.
but that's interesting. And how old do they have to be to do that?
I think they've got an age slot from, I couldn't tell you accurately, but I'm going to say
Yeah.
from like 13 to 18.
Maybe, I'm not sure on that. I think Community Relations Officer Beaver, and they do a great job. She does a great job with those. I'm not 100% sure on the age on that.
Just something thrown out there, because I think, you know, something like that, law enforcement, you get interested in at a young age, you know, so.
In the last couple of minutes here, Captain Morris, I'm curious about the canine units there now. Can you give us an idea of how many and what kinds?
So right
what do
now
they
we
do?
excuse me, we have 5 canines. We have 3 Belgian Malinois, 1 German Shepherd, and we just have acquired a Dutch Shepherd. He was a donation from Phantom Canine. 2 of our guys are in training right now. It's going on in Mvskoke. That's a 5-week process for them. It's stressful, intense for them. They'll do everything from narcotics. They'll cert at a certain point in there on their narcotics. They'll do tracking, building search, bite and apprehension work. When they come out of there, they'll be ready to go to the street. They'll come out of there with several certifications.
Now, when you would send a canine in to apprehend a subject, what are the basic, I guess, requirements? I mean, somebody hiding you can't find in the dark. What
So
triggers?
all use of force like that is, and it's no different with canine. We use that based upon Graham Connor. You know, it's got to meet a certain level to use that force. Usually violent felonies, actively resisting, a threat to other officers or public. We have to take those things into consideration. But normally it's violent felonies. We always take each situation is different, but we always take that into consideration.
Do you get a lot of cooperation from suspects when they find out that you've got a dog ready to go?
You do. You'd be surprised that just their mere presence can change a situation really quick.
And you treat your dogs as if they're officers, so like if they get hurt, you can get the same charge as you would for hurting a human officer, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
And if you lose one,
It's like losing the kid. It's terrible.
Right.
I've been fortunate to work 2 in the unit. whenever I promoted, I retired my second one, and he lives at home with me, and he's my buddy.
Okay. And we've always understood that you see a canine out on duty that you don't pet them.
They're working dogs. That's the way we treat them. We don't spoil them. They're not pets. They're there to do a job, and we don't want to interfere with that job, so we have to treat them that way.
Don't get too cuddly.
Don't get too cuddly, yeah.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, we need to take another break here and make our shift change here. So please, everyone, stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio as we're talking to our crew from our law enforcement units here under Mvskoke Nation. Gary Fife here on Mvskoke Radio.
And we're back. We got one more little segment here for you. And, sir, if you don't mind, go ahead and introducing yourself.
My name is Michael Fish. I'm the North Division Commander.
And what is your role as North Division Commander?
Basically, I oversee the areas of Tulsa County, Creek County, parts of Rogers, Mays, Wagner, and Mvskoke. So I've got 6 of the 11 counties that I supervise.
That's a large area.
Very.
And so then we have a southern district, or division, right?
That's correct.
And who represents that, if you don't mind?
That is Captain Leland Bear.
Okay, just so everybody knows that information. And Gary?
Yeah, you mentioned Tulsa there. That's got to be a huge challenge, you know, the second biggest city in the state. Does that command a real need on your resources? Does it strain you? I mean, do you have enough of a crew to cover all that space and all of those fun things you have to do?
Well, no.
Okay.
And let me put it into context. When you look at Tulsa, the municipal, the city of, you've got approximately 900 officers to take care of the city. And if you look at the division, we've got 22 officers at all times on the roster. Now, we can't work all 22 at the same time. So if you look at it in those terms, 900 officers versus 20,
Right.
you're looking at quite a deficit. And not to include the other 5 counties as well.
Yeah, that has got to be a huge job. When I think of that district, of course, your attention is drawn to the casino, I mean, to River Spirit. But that's not everything that you have to watch out for, is it?
No, it's not. Unfortunately, crime has no boundaries. A lot of what we do are drug interdiction. A lot of what we do is working in conjunction with the FBI, DEA. So there's a lot of things that go unheard, which I'd prefer to have it that way.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it's got something you got to do.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking stories where we've heard, actually things happening in the parking lot of the casino, like drugs or an abduction or. I understand there's been some gunfire and that sort of thing. That's all within what you have to cover?
Absolutely. The casino is a small fraction of all of the crime that we deal with. A lot of what we do is working with Riverside Division in Tulsa.
Right.
And Gilcrease and the Mingo Valley.
Do the citizens of Tulsa, I mean the ones you have to deal with, understand that you do have the jurisdiction and responsibility then for law enforcement there? And if they commit a crime, then they're going to have to pay for it. Do they know, or do they give you a hard time?
Well, there is an ignorance. When I say that, I don't mean it in a disrespectful manner. Ignorance defined as lack of knowledge. There's a lack of knowledge among the citizens. And unfortunately, I myself have been in pursuits due to the fact that an average citizen didn't think that I had jurisdiction to enforce the law.
Right. So I'm not Indian. You can't arrest me for anything. Right?
Yeah, well, he apologized, but that was when he was at David L. Moss being booked in. So.
The Iron Bar Hotel.
So it can cause a little bit more riffraff at times, kind of seems like, or what do you call that? I guess obstruction. They don't want to cooperate. So how do you deal with that? Do you just try to kind of inform them, or do you keep pursuing, or do you go ahead and make that contact with the other agencies?
Well, that's a great question, and our chief of police has taken it upon himself to call town hall meetings with the representatives of the law enforcement agencies within my area. So we make a lot of networking. We do the question answer type dialogue, but for the most part, 2 years in now, we have great relationships with our larger cities, Tulsa being one, Tulsa County Sheriff's, Broken Arrow, Jinx. All of those guys are partners for sure. Sand Springs, that is correct.
So are all those protocols are the same? I mean, the same deal with each agency?
It is. We've tried to establish a standard, which we don't differ from. Of course, there are circumstances which will call for us to break the protocol, but they're far in between. And you have to understand, in all of this, it's historical. There's not a book written about how to go about supervising the North Division. I'm the first, and I'm standing on ground that's never been walked on before. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to have some trial and error, growing pains, but for the most part, our brothers in blue, they are fully understanding of this and cooperative. So it's a large collaboration.
Okay, so there's none of the stepping on somebody else's toes kind of thing.
No, in the law enforcement world, as we see it, you can never have enough resource. Mm-hmm. There's the rules the bad guy plays by, and then there's the rules the good guy plays by. And they have no rules. So that's why it's cooperation that's going to win the day.
Right, okay. So the bad guys actually do have rules. They just happen to be your rules.
That's correct.
Okay. Has the force expanded or changed in any sort of way to add this district to the coverage that you do? I mean, Tulsa's got to be huge and all these kind of different things going on there. I mean, have you made the changes you need to adequately deal with it?
Again, there's no book written on how to do these things. So what we do is really rely upon something which I would say other agencies don't have. And that is, we fall back on our traditions, not only the church traditions, but the ceremonial ground traditions, and fall back on that teaching. We take care of every elder and every person in our communities as though they were our uncle, our brother, our grandfather, grandmother. So when you get that community policing aspect, that's where we gain in resources that other agencies don't have. Mm-hmm. We reach out to that.
Well, let me follow up on that cultural direction that you just mentioned there. Obviously, our peoples have made their own decisions about which path they want to walk. And in respecting the cultural traditions, such as language or perhaps protocol at a stomp grounds or something like that, how do you guys deal with it? Is there something where perhaps Amico might say, no, you can't do this, or please go away? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, first and foremost, we are subservient to the people. Mm. In saying that, we have a mini academy which we sponsor for our officers. And in that academy is a block of instruction on cultural aspects, whether it be the traditional churches or it's the stomp ground, ceremonial ground. And our officers are taught that in making contact with the ground, that we ask to speak to the Miko, to advise him that we are there to serve him. If he has a problem that he feels would better be suited for us to take care of, then we can accommodate that. But as in the tribal towns and as in the Miko, he's in charge. We're just there to serve him. So,
Yeah, I'm going to ask Chief Phillips to weigh in on this, if you would. I understand you are a fluent Mvskoke speaker. Is that correct, first of all?
Yes, I am. Yes, I do speak our language. I was blessed with the opportunity to assist Judge Bigler in rewriting the Constitution into our language. In the fledgling process of it, it was myself, Jamona Deere, Miko George Thompson from Ojiabova, Bill Proctor from New York, and myself and Judge Bigler, and we rewrote our Constitution in our language in the words that we actually speak, either whether it be at the ceremonial grounds or the churches. I mean, we all speak the same Dijadim Bonaga or language.
Now, have you had situations where that was really important, like perhaps there was a misunderstanding between officer who was on scene and the people who were practicing at the ground?
Well, of course, it's been pre-COVID before when we had a lot of the elders. I was a officer at Morris Police Department. We had an officer that had encountered a speaker at the Greenleaf Ceremonial Grounds and refused to speak English to him, and he refused to speak what was going on. And so he called me. Again, I just happened to be on duty at Morris, so I said, well, give him the phone. And he passed the phone to the elder, and then again in our language, I told him, I said, what's the problem, what's going on? And then the elder elaborated in our language, and then, I spoke with him, passed the phone back to the officer, and then I relayed to him, and that's how we actually handled that said situation. And again, it's sad. We've lost a lot of our speakers.
Yeah.
So that problem, well, I don't want to say it's a problem, but that barrier, for lack of a better term, is almost, I guess, we're non-existent now, because, we've lost a lot of our speakers.
In that particular situation, do you feel like it really relieved the tension there? Like, did the gentleman feel more comfortable then in talking with you and discussing?
He did, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He was glad to hear that I could speak, and then he asked if I was a light horseman then, and I told him, I said I was just a reserve at that point, and the optimum answer was yes, I am. So even though I was with another agency at that particular time, I still answered this question, which again, the common goal.
Sure.
Getting everybody help.
Cross-deputization without
Yes, sir.
the paperwork.
Yes, sir.
Has there ever been a situation then when the rules of the grounds prevented you from taking any actions?
Again, like what Captain Fish said, ultimately the Miko's the law at that point. We're going to respect his wishes. Whatever crime has been committed, we'll go up there, we'll talk to the Miko, the Imbohatas, or the firemen, and if they say, hey, we don't want you here, y'all catch him tomorrow, catch him another day, or her, then they say let them practice whatever their, the medicine is. They might be taking Hilishwa or whatever. We're going to back off, because we're going to respect the Miko and the stickmen or the Imbohatas. We're going to respect their wishes, and if they say, y'all go ahead and back off, we will back off.
Are the reasons why you could get called to the ground pretty much the same, like somebody was Haji or disruptive? Or
No, that's just a blatant disrespect to the grounds and the Miko and the Hilishwa. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's got a cell phone this day and age, you know,
Yeah.
whether they have service or not, but if they do, and they call, you know, they say, we got Hod Judge out here, we need y'all out here, we're going to come out here, we're going to take them away, because again, that could be detrimental to the Helixwa.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't tie them to a tree.
Well, but again, that's up to the Miko and the Imbohatas.
If they
If they
decide
say
to,
that
yeah.
he's over there, then we'll go over there and get him.
Yeah. Sitting there hugging and hooking them.
Ultimately, I mean, that's the way things were. They handle things there in their own fashion, and that's what they did, was tie him to the trees back in the day. So if that is indeed the case, and they said, we got him tied over there, we'll go over there and untie him, we'll take him to jail.
Okay, finally, as we're in the last couple of minutes here, we noticed that the headquarters locations have changed. There's a sign now covering the little monument out front. Where are you all located? If somebody wanted to come in and talk, where do they go?
Right now, our patrol division is located just north of the housing building in the old social services school clothing building. We're in that area right there. That's where you'll come. Our records investigation, the records keeping is all over here at the hub, over here off of Alabama, I think is the street, by the Brock's gym. That's where our investigations are located. Our dispatch division is located just west of the Mvskoke Media building. I guess, is that what y'all's building is called, ma'am?
Yes. And that's the old few
GSA,
distribution.
yes.
Yeah,
We're in the old GSA building. That's where our dispatch is located.
Okay, yeah.
But,
I've
I mean-
seen, I noticed all your cars there now, and then y'all
Yes,
got
ma'am.
that yard in the back that has all the wrecked ones, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh my lord. I didn't realize, I don't know why I never put that together. I was like, there's a lot of cars back there.
So that's where we're at. And again, of course, our number is still 918-732-7800. I mean, you can still call that number and we'll get to you.
So if somebody has an emergency, or
Yes.
that's what they call it.
That they need to call that 918-732-7800 and we'll get an officer to you.
Okay. Well, I guess we're presumably out of time here. We want to thank you, Chief Phillips, for bringing your crew in and speaking with us and spending the time. Maro mabuhay.
Inga, maro.
You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Maro.